You are now listening to About That Business, hosted by Rom Wills. Rom Wills is an entrepreneur and personal coach who has helped people reach their fullest potential personally and professionally. Take it away, Rom.
Welcome to Rom Wills, About That Business. The publishing industry. And I've probably already did a video on this. Yeah, because it's my main thing. But you know what? One of my subscribers, LaTroy Hepburn, wanted me to address this again or talk about it again. And, you know, it's actually my main industry. People think my main thing are doing videos and stuff. My main thing is publishing books. Now, I need to write a new book right now, and I'm working on some stuff. Or about to work on some stuff. I'm gonna start in February working on a new book. But the publishing industry, one thing I like about the publishing industry is it's so wide open. There's not a finite amount of books that people can read. Like a person can literally, especially if they're a speed reader, maybe read a book every day for 365 days. Right? If they're a slower reader or maybe take a week or something, that's 52 books. And then, you know, when you have literate people who are generally literate and like to read, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, I mean, you got a good crowd. Now, you know, there's so many things that you can do to get into the publishing industry, right? There's so many things you could do. One of the main things is just write. And the beauty of writing, you have a whole industry just around writing. I mean, you have people who do workshops. You have people who do editing. You have people who creating software to do the editing. But it just comes down to you can create whatever story you like, right? You can create whatever story. There's no entry into it. You can write about anything. It's really just a matter of who which people are going to buy your stuff. And, you know, if you're interested in writing, I would suggest just write your story. Write whatever you want to. You don't know how that's going to help. Like you might have overcome something and say, look, I don't want to write fiction. I want to write about how I overcame this disease or something, or how I overcame poverty or addiction or something. Somebody will buy it. Especially, I'm going to tell you what, nonfiction, if you got like a good story of surviving the odds or something, nonfiction, you have a good chance for it to sell because people are always looking for some type of advice. And the beauty of it is you're not really competing because say you had a sex addiction. You know, I'm a dating coach. You know, I'm going to talk about sex. Say you have a sex addiction, and you got plenty of books out there about how to overcome it, what to do. One more is not going to hurt it because then your story might resonate with someone, right? So people are always going to have that. And then speaking of stories, humanity, one of the things we will always want in this society, we always want to eat food for our body, to nourish our body, but then we need stories to nourish our minds because stories provide a guidance. They entertain us, of course. We learn how to behave through stories because if you look at the holy books, they're stories. The Bible, stories. The Muslim sutras, stories. You know, the Bhagavad Gita, stories. I mean, you know, mythologies, they're stories. You know, so I mean that's something. I mean there's always an opening for that, and then you know there's other aspects of the publishing industry. Like you have both book creators like book printers, and then you have increasingly publishing on demand. And then, you know there's pros and cons for both of them. One thing, if you deal with a regular book printer, only thing with them is you can't just you got to print a whole bunch of books at one time. Usually the number is like 1,000. Now the thing is the print quality is way better. The print quality is way better and stuff. That's the main thing. And you know it might be good, you know, just to get a lump, you know, big bulk of books out there, especially if you have some place to sell them. Like, and it was that was especially good when there were more bookstores. Now, one good thing about bookstores, booksellers, they're coming back. They're coming back. I'm gonna get into that in a second. But and then publishing on demand. And one thing, if you're a writer now, or you're a publisher, or a self-publisher, which is probably 90% of the industry out there, 90% of the writers, because it was like 70 something percent maybe 10 years ago, and it's more people are just publishing on their own because they can go through platforms like Amazon to publish on demand. Now, publishing on demand is almost like easy. I mean, you might spend a little bit of money on the front end, but you can get it back real quick because, one, you don't have to carry a lot of inventory. Amazon or whatever publishing POD group you're dealing with will publish, mail them to wherever. And also, too, if you want to get a lump sum of, a bulk books to sell on your own, you can still get that from publishing on demand. But you can as a publisher or self-published writer, you can go through that, or you could be, if you have the technology, you could actually do that for people. And the technology isn't that much, because I've actually thought about doing printing and stuff. I mean, I would just need a good sized warehouse and supplies and everything. But you actually have fairly large machines that will do that for you. That will actually publish the book, like create the book for you. All right, it's real expensive, but actually I don't know. I haven't checked. I ain't gonna say that, because I checked a while ago, and actually the price wasn't bad for one machine that did print on demand. The price really wasn't bad at all. The biggest issue was just finding a space. That's actually the biggest issue. All right, but you have that, and then let me get back to the booksellers. Right now, one thing that happened to me when I first got into really publishing, you had plenty of bookstores. I had a whole network of bookstores, particularly independent stores and particularly black-owned bookstores, right? And one of the things that hurt me was the print on demand, actually, and Amazon, because people were getting their books from there and they were ordering their books online. Now, one of the good things, bookstores are coming back. So that's another way. If you have, and usually what they do, the bookstores, they usually have something extra. They usually they might be in a cafe or something. They might have more events, something like that, right? But it's another way to jump into it. Now, I'm going to tell you what, especially depending on your niche, that's something that you could make a lot of money in. You can make a lot of money with it because people always read it. Not as much as they could, and it's not as big an industry as they could be, but it's still a lot of people. It's still a lot of people, I would say. And honestly, I would say if you wanted to be a bookseller or something, just two places if you can try to have a bookstore. Have it in a fairly affluent neighborhood, and have it in a well-trafficked area. Like maybe a downtown area, depending on where you are. Because that's one thing. If you wanted to be a bookseller, open a bookstore, that's probably the most important thing that you can do, is figure out the demographics of whoever you're trying to sell to. But really, that's with anything. And there might be some stuff. You got a lot of publishing industry stuff that can probably help you. Some more trade usually with trade stuff, they can tell you who's buying what, where, and all of that, right? But it's something, I'm going to tell you what, it's something to get into. There's very little bar to entry. You can write about whatever you want. If you want to be a publisher or something, you don't have to be bonded or anything like that. You just have to come up with something and you're good to go. You're good to go, right? So it's something, and I'll tell you what, it's taken me a long way. It really is, because like I say, my main thing is still publishing. That's still a significant portion of the money I get every month, is just from selling ebooks and hard copy books. So, and the beauty of it is, all I do is collect the money now. Every once in a blue moon, every now and then I'll send out some books directly or do an event where I got to sell books, but But it's a good industry. I'll just say I love it. So anyway, that's all I got for today. Yeah, I know what to do. Let's go make that money.